Hey all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is the Aesthetic Book Robot, and today we are going to see a complete flip through of my 2025 completed reading journal. So let's get started. This is my reading journal that I used for 2024 and 2025 because as you can see it's a bigger size. It's a B5 size journal and it has around 180 to 200 pages I think. So I used this for 2 years continuously. One was for 2024 and immediately the next year also I used the same journal for 2025. I've already posted a flip through of 2024 last year around the same time. I'll link the description below. And I've also posted a 2025 reading journal setup video when I first started it for 2025, which also I will link in the description below. But now what we're going to see is my completed spreads of 2025. So let's flip to that. So it starts from here. Between 2024 and 2025, I didn't do much changes. It remained almost the same. But still, I thought I would take you through my completed journal. I really loved maintaining this journal, and honestly, I'm going to miss this journal this year because I think I only have almost a couple of pages left. Yeah, so I made sure that I was right on the page count. Anyway, so this is the first page, and on the left side I usually have a quote page, any quote related to reading or books, and on the right side I'll have the year and the words reading journal. Then I always start with the reading goals page. I'll write on the reading goals, that is any goals related to my reading that I would like to follow that year or achieve that year. This year I set some very ambitious goals, out of which I was able to complete only 2 to 3 goals. I think I set around 7 goals, but I completed only 2 goals and half of another goal. And in the same page, I used to have a book tracker kind of spread where I'll color each box with this star rating color. And I had only 50 boxes, but this year I actually read 60 books. So this space wasn't enough, and I also didn't have any space to add 10 more boxes. So I thought, so I just abandoned this. But in the later page, I have one more graph or tracker to mark my star ratings for all the 60 books that I read. I'll show you when we come to that page. The next page is the bookshelfy page. This is one of my favorite spread in all the reading journals that I see. So it's just a bookshelf and where I write the names of the books that I read that year, and I'll color code it genre wise. So as you can see, there are many oranges this year, which stands for psychological thriller. I think I read around 15 to 20 psychological thriller this year out of the 60 books that I read, and around 10 to 15 were romance. Only the remaining 10 to 15 books were other genres. But coming year, I hope to change that and try to read more of detective fiction, literary fiction, and more classics. Then flipping to the next page, I had 25 in 2025 spread. But this spread ended up becoming a waste because as you can see, I read only 4 books out of these. I wasn't able to read the remaining 21 books at all. The idea behind this was to include books that have been on my TBR for a very long time and books that I really wanted to read as soon as possible. But I didn't end up reading these. I ended up reading more easier books, more fast-paced books. As you can see, most of the books here are classics and very lengthy books. So I was able to read only 4 books out of here. Remaining are all just unread and still in my TBR. And next is my LitZone book club spread. So as you might already know from my previous videos or from my Instagram, I run a book club called LitZone Book Club. So there we choose one book for each month and try to read it together and discuss it at the end of the month. So this year we had these books to read, and some of these I've already read, so I didn't read it along with the club. For example, Days at the Morisaki Bookshop, Unexpected Guest, All That Sizzles, and I Who Have Never Known Men. All this I read before even choosing this for the book club. But apart from that, I read around 4 or 5 books with the club, I think. And remaining I didn't end up reading it because either I was not interested to pick it up at that time, or I didn't have the book and I didn't want to buy it specifically for this. So this is that spread. And next is another one of my favorite spreads. It's called the Read Christie Challenge spread. So every year there is a Read Christie Challenge that is conducted by the official Agatha Christie Legacy. So they gave us 12 prompts. So this year's theme was characters and careers. So all the prompts for each month were based on careers the characters in Agatha Christie books typically have. For example, January was artists, February was authors, and so on. Again, in this I was able to read only 6 books. The books highlighted in green are the ones I ended up reading. I also didn't want to buy more books this year. So as much as possible, I try to fit in the books that I already have, or the books, or even the books that I've already read. So but that ended up being counterproductive because I didn't feel the motivation to read books that I've already read. For example, these 3 books I had already read some 2-3 years back, and when it came to the challenge this year, I didn't really want to reread them again. So this is that spread, and on the right side is the official postcard they release. I just take a printout of that and stick that in my journal. And next is my year overview page. This idea was inspired from Books, Papers, Coffee. She's a Bookstagram and blogger on Instagram who I got to know through Bookstagram. So she had this spread, and I loved it so much, so I also try to recreate it in my journal. So that basically what it tracks is different things related to reading and books that month for each of the months of the year. So on the left side I have months, and on the top I have got number of books I read that month, number of pages I read, and the average rating of all the books that I read that month, and so on. So this is that spread. I basically track all the metrics here. And on the right side I've got a year in pixel spread. This is something new that I created this year in my journal, and this is also inspired from a lot of Bookstagrammers and bullet journal creators on YouTube. Basically what it tracks is the number of pages I read each day. So here I have color coding for each range of pages. If I didn't read that day, it is orange, and if I read 1 to 25 pages, it's yellow, and if I read 26 to 50 pages, it is green. And that way I have got 365 boxes here, for one for each day of the year. On the top there are months, and on the left there are days of the month. So according to the color code here, I'll color that each day. So this is that spread. And next I have got the books bought this year, and how much I spent, where I bought, and who is the author of that book. So these details I like to list down here. So last year I have bought 39 books totally, and I have spent around 12,000 rupees on just books. And so this is actually like a reality check of how much I'm spending for, each year on books, and it sometimes motivates me to tone down my spending on books and tone down the number of books I buy. I went overboard in January and March. As you can see, January I bought a lot of books because I wanted to buy all of Agatha Christie's books for the Read Christie Challenge. So I bought like around 4 or 5 books of hers. And in March I visited a bookstore after so many months, so I went a little overboard and bought around 7 to 8 books, I guess. And October is very high because it was my birthday month, and my husband gifted me around 4 to 5 books. So I didn't really spend much on those, even though the number of books in October is quite high. After that, I got a physical TBR tracker spread. Here I track the opening number of books that I had at the beginning of the year, that is physical unread books. And each month I subtract the books that I read and add the books that I bought. So as you can see, the books that I read, I have got 2 columns. So what this means is the left side column is the books that I read from this beginning 96 books, and the right side green color column is the books that I read from the this column, from books bought column, basically the books that I bought in 2025. So this will help me, so tracking this separately will help me analyze whether I'm reading recently bought books or already existing older books that I've got on my shelf for more than a year. So that way this was very helpful. And I also track the book gifts that I got. So as you can see, I've got the most number of gifts in October, which is my birthday month. By the end of the year, I've got 111. So my goal at the initial at the beginning of the year was to reduce my physical TBR to 60 books. But instead, what I have done is from 96, I've increased it to 111 books by buying 40 more books and reading very little from physical TBR this year. Anyways, so flipping to the next, I've got the reading log page. So this is also one of my favorite ways to list down all the books that I've read that year. So making a list like this with all the details of that book, like the author, genre, rating, and the format in which I read and from when to when did I read, it gives me a sense of satisfaction at the end of the year when I flip to all these pages. So I got around 4.5 pages of just this reading log. I really like this, and I also try to color code it by few aspects, like whether I read it for the book club or whether I read it as part of Read Christie challenge or as part of 25 and 2025 challenge, or is it just a personal TBR kind of thing. I just wanted to read that book, so I read it. So most of this will fall in this category, that is the yellow color. I just read that book because I wanted to. It was not part of any other challenges as such. So this goes on for another 4 pages. Next, yeah, so remember in the beginning of the video I told that I abandoned that spread where I color coded each of the book by the rating of the rating I gave for that book. So this is the spread I replaced that for, since I didn't have space there for 60 books. So what I did is I saw this in Katie Reads Fiction, that's her Instagram ID. In her reading journal I saw the spread, so I was inspired by it. I really liked it, so I tried to recreate it. I will link her Instagram in the description below with that post where she has this spread. I don't know if she has YouTube, so I don't really have a YouTube link to it. So how this basically works is there is a circle that you draw and divide it into 12 equal parts, one for each month, and you basically draw concentric circles, one part each for each of the book that I read. For example, in January I read 7 books, so I have colored 7 parts of that section. And I've color coded it by star rating I gave for each of the book. So the first 2 books that I read in January I gave 5 stars. The third book I read in January I gave 3 stars, and so on and so forth. And this also gives me an overview of which months I read the most and which month I was in a slump. So as you can see, in November I read only 1 book, whereas in October I've read 12 books. I actually really like this book. I plan to do this in my 2026 journal also. And next one is authors read page. This is also something new that I decided to do this year. Basically I've listed on all the authors from whom I've read this year, and certain statistics like how many of those were women authors, how many of those were Indian authors, and how many of those were new to me authors. That is, I read their book for the first time only this year. So whatever I marked in green dots here, these were the authors who were new to me this year. So I picked up their books only in 2025, whereas the other authors without that green mark, I've already read some books by them before 2025. And out of the 30 authors that I read, 25 of them were women authors and 7 were Indian authors. Next year, I really hope to increase the 7 by a more percentage of Indian authors. So let's see how that goes. So with this, all my yearly spreads in my 2025 reading journal are completed. Of course, there are other year-end spreads at the end of this journal. But before that, I'll show you how my monthly spreads work. So in my monthly spread, the first page will always be a calendar spread. Basically here I'll mark how many pages I read that day and from which book I read that day. And it is all color coded. So here I've got the list of books that I read in that month, that is basically in January, and each book has a color to it. So if I see the first book, Interpreter of Maladies, I read that on 1st January, 2nd January, 6th January and 4th January. I think 11 and 12 also. And inside that color I'll write the number of pages I read that day. So this gives me a view of when all I read and how many pages I read in a particular day. I basically like tracking these things, and I use an app called Storygraph to track this, and at the end of the month I sit down and copy these numbers from that app to my reading journal. So this is that calendar spread, and if you would have seen my monthly reading journal setups, this would have been I would have explained this much more in detail in those videos as well. you can see that I have a playlist for 2025 reading journal videos, which I will link in the description. You can refer to that as well. Then after this are my book reviews. Basically, the reviews of all the books I read in that month. How it goes is I'll print out the book cover in an A4 sheet. I'll print out all the book covers of that month in an A4 sheet and cut them out and stick it here. And I'll write the title of the book, the author, the rating, and the genre here, and the count here. So this book was the 5th book of that year. So I've written book 5 here, and from when to when did I read that book, followed by a review. And I don't decorate my journal much. I just add a couple of washi tapes or some stickers somewhere. That's it. So after all the review pages, the last monthly spread is always my wrap-up spread. And in my wrap-up spread, I have got these 2 screenshots from Storygraph. Storygraph releases a wrap-up at the end of each month, and this is something that I additionally include for that month. That is, this is basically a mood chart of all the books that I read in that month. And these small book covers also I take print out in the same A4 sheet I used to print out the individual book covers, and I stick them here so that I have all the books I read in a month in one single page. So this is all about the monthly spreads. It just follows on for the other months of the year. So this is my March reviews, and then my April calendar, April reviews, May calendar and May reviews, June. And after June I did a mid-year wrap-up also. I have a separate video on this as well, so you can watch that. Basically, I printed out a few statistics from Storygraph, and I included a few statistics of my own also here. And after that, again the monthly spread continues for the rest of the year. And all these reviews I haven't written for some books yet. I think I wrote till June. From July onwards, I'm yet to write my reviews. So these are all blank for now. And here I've got September, and then October, November, December. Yeah. So with this, all my monthly spreads are over. Next page is my most favorite page, guys. Every year in my reading journal, I look forward to setting up this spread. I have this ritual where on December 31 of every year, I stick all the book covers of that year, of the books that I read that year. I literally sit on December 31 evening or night and do this spread. So this has all the 60 books that I read in 2025, and I just added a washi tape as a border to decorate and stuff. And next I've got 2025 wrap up. So this is, all these charts are from Storygraph app. So I track my books every day. So if you do that, you'll get these accurate statistics and attractive charts in Storygraph. So I just took screenshots of those and printed them out, and I've stuck them here in my journal. And this is also something new that I did this year, reading superlatives. So it basically has best of each category. So best writing, best character, best opening, best ending, most surprising, most thought-provoking, most comforting, most prettiest cover, and so on. So I just printed out the book covers of these specific books and decided to do them here. And after that, since I had some 3-4 pages, I wanted to fill those with something. So I stuck all the bookish pictures I took this year in these 2 pages. So I visited a lot of bookstores this year. I mean, you can't say a lot. I visited around 5 to 6 bookstores this year. So these are all pictures from there. Some visits I don't really have pictures of. So wherever I took pictures and aesthetic ones like this, I printed out and decided to include them in my reading journal. So these are that pictures. And with that, we have come to the end of the video. So that was my 2025 reading journal flip through, guys. I'll just give a quick flip through once more. I hope you liked it, and I hope you were inspired enough to create one of your own. I really loved maintaining this journal, and I'm definitely going to miss this. But I do have another journal for 2026 already, so I'll be using that. And I've already posted 2026 reading journal setup video also. You can watch that from my channel. I'll put a link in the description. And with that, 2025 reading journal series comes to an end, and I'll meet you in my future videos for 2026 reading journals. And hope you like this video, and if you liked it, and if you like reading journal books and journaling in general, do check out my channel and give me a subscribe. And bye. Thank you for watching.